Hello there, my name is Thomas O'Regan and I'm a professional property investor here in Australia. Now, one of the goals that me and my wife set out for us to achieve in the next 2 years is to buy our dream home. Now, that's one of the biggest goals we have in the short term, and I wanted to dive in today a few of the different ways that we could achieve that, or we are going to achieve that, which are going to be potential options for us in getting there. Now, to buy our dream home, what we are looking at is purchasing a home for between $3 and $4 million. Now, let's just wind back a little bit and start at the beginning of my investment journey. Now, the beginning of my investment journey, or me and my wife's investment journey, when we started getting serious about investing, we had about $50,000 and we chose to invest that into an apartment, which was an investment property in Perth. Now, fast forward 4 years from then, we now own almost 20 properties, and I say almost because some are under contract but not settled yet, and they are all 1 to 2 bedroom apartments. Now, what would be the difference if we never invested in properties in the first place? We would maybe be saving our money, and we would have had, I don't know, who knows, maybe $500,000 right now if we saved very, very hard. And I'll just add another note. When we started our investment portfolio, we had $50,000, and what we did to grow that property portfolio from that point, we actually never put our own money into the property portfolio from that point. We just leveraged the equity to buy the next property and the next property and the next property and the next property. So essentially, that $50,000 that we saved, we actually never saved any money up again. So this $500,000 that we could have saved, or would have saved if we never invested, we would also be able to save that at the same time as investing anyway. Just a note, right? But basically, as I said, the dream home for us, and I just want to run these two these two hypotheticals next to each other, or these two scenarios. One is very real and one is not real. But if we saved up $500,000 to today, that would be almost enough for a $3 million property purchase deposit at a 20% deposit, and then other cost, almost. So technically, we could, if we just saved for a little bit longer, we could buy that home, technically, if we saved very, very hard. But one of the big problems I would see, and it's not really a problem, but a bit of a risk, is we would be going into that property with very large debt, because we'd only be putting about 20% deposit into a $3 million home. Now, that might look like $2.3 million worth of debt, or maybe even more. That's quite a lot of money to be paying off for the next 30 years. Not too interested in doing that. Now, what's better about the way that we took is we only saved up $50,000, and we've used that money, or the growth in the portfolio, to leverage into a larger asset base. Our asset base today is worth $7 million. So now let's get into different ways that the property portfolio we have will get us into our dream home. Well, the simplest way for us to get into our dream home would just be simply to sell the properties, right? Sell all the properties that are worth $7 million and then buy the dream home cash. So obviously that is a far better result than saving up like a maniac to get a 20% deposit for this property and purchasing it with a large debt. Obviously, the route we have taken over the last 4 years is superior than the alternative, which is what most people do that do not invest. Another scenario would be we could sell half of our investment properties and keep half, and then use the proceeds to buy the dream home with a lower debt position. Still quite a significant debt, maybe $1 million worth of debt or $1.5 million worth of debt. But yeah, but that's that. why would we do that? Well, the reason why would we only sell half the investment portfolio is because obviously the investments are assets and they generate rental income. So ultimately, the longer we own these assets, the more rental income they will generate, and that is passive income for us. So ideally, this is something I've learned before because I've sold properties of our portfolio before. Once you sell the properties, you can't get any more benefits from the properties. Obviously, you can't, once you sell the properties, if the property you sold continues to go up in value, you no longer have that benefit, and also you no longer have the benefit of rental income supporting your lifestyle. So that's another scenario. And if we were to have a $1.5 million debt, maybe instead of both of us working in the hypothetical scenario where we saved up the entire deposit ourselves to buy the dream home, me and my wife would both need to work high-paying jobs to pay that mortgage. In the scenario where we sell half of our investment portfolio and retain half, maybe only I would have to work to pay the mortgage, because it's still a significantly large mortgage, $1 million, $1.5 million. I could probably support that on my own with my job, which was pretty good job, pretty well paid. But I don't really like the idea of that either. Why? Because potentially if I lost my job, we would be in a pretty sticky situation. Now, what's another scenario? Say, as I said, we have 20 properties. And what I also said is that is today, right? 20 properties today. So, and it's worth $7 million. Now, the thing with our investment properties that we've purchased is they are about to go through a market cycle, or I am at least anticipating that they are about to go through a market cycle. And what I'm anticipating is the property prices are going to increase by maybe 70%, maybe 100% of the value of what they are. Now, what is that going to mean? It will mean maybe, I'm just being wishful here. At the end of the day, you can't. Capital growth happens, you cannot control it, but the point of investing is to get capital growth, right? So if my property portfolio, or if me and my wife's property portfolio went for $7 million, what it is now to $11 million, we could, instead of selling the property portfolio to buy the dream home, we could simply refinance the property portfolio, pull out a large amount of equity, and then use that equity as a cash to purchase the dream home. And again, I don't know what the situation is going to be in the future. Maybe it might be enough to purchase the home entirely in cash, or maybe it might only be enough to purchase the property with a large mortgage. Now, what is the actual benefit of that is it's a totally unrisky position. My wife would have the choice to not have to go to work, and if maybe I'd have to generate a small amount of income to pay the mortgage, but ultimately, even if we wanted to travel around Australia or go on an overseas trip, we could just rent the home out, and whatever that small mortgage would be, the rental income coming in from that property would ultimately be enough to service that debt and give us excess cash flow just from that one property. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do and why I'm building a property portfolio. And with my property portfolio and my wife's property portfolio, that is our short-term goals. Obviously, I have long-term goals with the property portfolio as well, but the point of this video was just to give you guys some insight on what is the point in building a property portfolio. If you think you can't buy a home and you never be able to buy a home, there's obviously ways to do it, but you just have to go maybe an untraditional route and buy properties that you would definitely never live in. Most likely, because a lot of the properties we invest in wouldn't be properties that we would live in, but they are going to get us to the property we would live in as a dream home. See you guys next time. Bye.